And we are live. Welcome to Show Me Your Pick. This is Fruitcake Tony. It's October the 10th, little after 4 p.m. Saturday. Hope everyone's doing well. Um, Deep Purple is who we're going to be covering today. We got some guests on board. Um, it's been kind of a hard week on the home front. Um, But hope everyone's doing well. Hope you've had a great week. Hope you're staying healthy. Um, let's first bring in my co-host, the legendary rock journalist, the one, the only, Mr. Steve Rosen.
Hi, everybody.
Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Tony. Yeah, a little bit of a sad weekend here.
Yeah, it has been. Um, Hard news this week. Um, Hard news all the way around. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yeah.
starting to sink in a little
Yep.
bit.
We
Um,
lost one of the truly unique voices in electric guitar. I mean,
yeah.
I was having a conversation with some buddies, and we were trying to think, of the truly most influential guitar players, down through history. And Rolling Stone always has their 150, 500 influential guitar players and this and that. And half of them, in my estimation, don't belong there. Um, when you're talking about the essence of electric guitar, who are the guys that without them there, um, uh, modern guitar playing, classic rock guitar playing would not sound like it does. Um, and if you really carve it down to the essence, um, I mean, Ed is obviously one of them. I mean, if you truly think of how many guitar players he actually influenced, I mean, it may have been a greater number than Hendrix or Jeff Beck, David Gilmour, because Ed is a relatively modern guitar player. I mean, he kind of you know comes after where Beck and some of those guys started. And you think of the impact of the internet and the computer and everybody downloading Van Halen songs, and you know the revolution of custom guitars and the painting on the guitars and the one pickups. I mean, I mean, he may have been, in terms of the number of guitar players he's influenced, he may have been the biggest influence on more guitar players than any other player in history. Which isn't to say that he was the biggest influence. Certainly, he ranks up there in the top five. So, yeah,
Yeah.
man,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
sad,
He
sad
changed
day.
everything. Yeah. Yeah. It it's been a it's been a wild week. I'm a huge Van Halen nut. Have been my whole life.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's been a very hard week um, for all of us. For all of us. Um, so, Steve, let's bring in our other guest.
yep.
Mr. Brendan B. Squared is here today. Hey, Brendan.
Hey guys. Nice to
Hey,
see
man.
you
How's
again.
it going, dude?
It's going good. Going good. As good as it can be.
Nice to see you, bro.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah.
I like that hat, Steve. I have some, but you know, got to get more. I love those.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it was a tough week, Tony. Tough week, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you calling, messaging. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
So
sure everybody's phone was blowing up on Tuesday. You know, it was, you know, I texted and contacted the people that I know are the hugest fans. So, you know, I mean,
yeah.
and it's, you really, there's not much you can say at that point because everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. Like, oh, I can't believe it, or, you know, is this real? Things like that. But, you know, just to acknowledge it, you know, I think you got to acknowledge it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I had just gotten home from work, and I was getting ready to take my old man nap, you know, which I do sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I saw, you know, scrolling through the phone and iPad, and like, oh man, like, oh boy, like this, what a loss, what a supreme loss, you know, incalculable, as a lot of people say. So then you just try to think back and, you know, try to celebrate. And you got to celebrate the man's life
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
what he's done. What Steve said before, what he's done for music, you know, probably won't be equaled in our lifetime. I don't know if ever.
Imagine.
Yeah, I don't know if ever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
You know, and the
Let's
other side of that, sorry guys, I'm sorry, Tony. You know, is the fact that Ed was only 65.
Right.
I mean, by today's standards, man, that's, you know, whatever. 65 is the old 40 or we're 45. I mean, that's young. And I don't know how old Wolfie is. Can't be that old. He's probably in his 20s.
Yeah, he's got to be in his 20s. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, man, that is really young to lose your dad. That's a hard one. But,
Yeah.
you know.
But I bet
Yeah.
you that 20 or so years were packed with so much stuff that he's got a lot of memories and a lot of love to look back on. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And he still got his whole life ahead of him as a musician. So
Yeah.
that's just getting started. That's just getting started. You
Right.
know.
Yeah. Johnny Bean just said it, and Lenny Lou. Wolf's 29. So wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
29. I didn't think it was that old.
Yeah, me neither. But
Yeah.
wow.
Wolf was born on my oldest son's birthday, so they share
Cool.
that. Yeah. So let's bring in our lovely co-producer here at Show Me Your Pick. Yep. Where is she at? She's down there in the green room. There she is. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey,
Sandra.
Yeah. Eddie.
Edward.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a question from somebody on the interview that was up there, the audio thing, and someone written, you know, did Ed like to be called Edward, or why did you call him Edward? And that was always a funny conversation because Alex used to call him Ed, and fans would typically say Eddie, you know, throw me a guitar pick. And I remember the first time I met him, he said, "Hi, I'm Edward." And you know, when the name somebody uses to introduce themselves is, you know, is probably the name they want to be called. So yeah, so I always called him Edward. I never heard anybody else call him Edward, but I think he liked that. I think he liked the what's the word?
Formality. maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a little more formal. I think it made him feel like I don't know, more of a, this composer type. I don't know.
It's
But
true though, because I always, when I meet somebody for the first time, I always ask them, hey, I'm so and so, and then they say their name. I say, what would you like me to call you? Because
right.
some people have, whatever it is, an aversion, a bad pass with some certain names, so you never want to offend anybody, But so I would try to ask. But
yeah, I mean, back in the day, when I was writing all the guitar player stories, it's all Steve Rosen. And then there was a patch in there. I don't know when it happened. Maybe the '90s. It's like Steve. It's got to be Steven,
Yeah.
And then it's like people call me that, and it was like that wasn't working, so kind of went back to Steve. But yeah, trying to find something that fits,
But never Stevie Rosen, right?
Never Stevie. It's funny. My parents used to call me Steve-O, which I loved.
But you can't,
because I never
can't
thought
do
of
that
it.
now.
Somebody says, "Oh man, like Devo." I thought, "Oh my god, I never thought of that connection."
Cool.
Be careful. Yeah. You may be getting a new nickname.
Yeah. Live with
Watch
that.
where you're going now.
We could call you Steve
Too
Rowe.
late. I already adopted it.
Steve Rowe. How about Steve Rowe?
What's up, Steve-O?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Steve-O. Yeah, I like that.
Steve-O.
Those that don't know, Steve interviewed Eddie many times, and he basically, his interviews are legendary. He set the tone for the EVH interview. And if you're watching right now, I encourage you to hang out because we have got a couple treats upcoming here in a moment that is going to blow your mind. Yes. So Steve, where were you when you heard this news on Tuesday?
I was actually here doing some eBay pick stuff, and who was it that contacted me? One of my guys, one of the guys who buys picks from me pretty regularly. I'm trying to remember who, and he just said, Ed is passed or something, and I go, what? And then I looked online, and it was all over the place, and yeah, that was pretty weird. It's funny, and I don't want this to sound spiritual or psychic or in touch with him, but I've had dreams about Ed. Not a lot, but I mean a fair number. And all the people that I've interviewed, I can never remember kind of having a dream about Jeff Beck or Peter Frampton. I mean, but Ed, I did, and that's been happening probably the last year. I couldn't even tell you what they were about. I just know it was him. Um, and I also thought, and I certainly didn't know when. I mean, I knew that Ed was sick. I mean, we all kind of knew he was sick. I had a little bit more of an insight that he was really sick. And I kept saying to myself, it's, something, not good is going to happen or something, And again, I had no inclination. I had, no ESP.
Most of it, Johnny.
Yeah, I just kind of, I mean, it was horrific and it was shocking, but it wasn't entirely surprising,
With him being, all of us knew he was sick, it kind of a little bit got us ready in the past year or two. Yeah. While Johnny Bean is in here, I want to give a hats off to him. When this news broke, he went live, and a lot of us were literally out of our minds. So he stayed live for many hours that afternoon and night, and there was no other place we needed to be, you know,
No,
all grouped together with Johnny like that. So yeah,
thank
we
you.
thank you, Johnny. Yeah,
Definitely.
I was riding down the road on my way home from work, and the rock radio plays the Two for Tuesdays, where they do a couple songs from each artist, and then they played Jump and another song, and then they went in with a couple more Van Halen. I'm like, wow, they're wearing it out. Cool. And after the last one, the announcer announced, and that's when I called you, Steve, and I'm like, what the hell is? And
Oh,
you
right.
said, yeah,
Right.
that I'm afraid so. And um, at this point, I'm on the shoulder, and I called Sandra. I'm like, what the hell is this news? I got to get home. How am I going to get home? Um, and so she basically helped me, guided me the last couple miles of my journey. And I came in, sat here, cut things on, and there's Johnny. So that's how I found out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
um, yeah. So um,
And just as Fruitcake Tony's calling me, I'm finding out that yes, this is real, and yes, he's really gone. And um, Johnny Beans. Actually, I saw the post on Facebook, so I flipped over to see what was going on because Johnny Bean goes live. I usually pop on YouTube or Facebook to check it out, and I thought and I didn't read the title. I just clicked on it, and I noticed Mancuda, and I'm like, oh shit, am I missing? What time is it? Did the time get away from me? No, it wasn't 7 o'clock. And then I read the title, and I was like, oh holy shit, yes, Fruitcake Tony, it's true. It really is true. It's not a hoax. It's not a prank. It's not a bad joke. He's just gone.
yeah.
Excuse me.
It's okay. I've heard, and you guys have probably heard as well, that Michael Anthony, they were going to get Mike back in the band, which I mean, I knew that was going to happen. Well, I mean, I didn't know for sure. I thought that's got to be the next thing they do. I thought the next thing they should have done was gotten Mike back in the band and gotten Sammy, and they could have gone out there, and done all the original band stuff with the four of them, and then Wolf and they could have done stuff with Wolf, and Sammy could have done the stuff, and I mean, my God, that tour would have been so big. A tour just with Mike, would have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's too bad that never happened. I mean, they treated Mike for whatever, Mike wasn't treated with much respect there, but
Yeah,
at least
but Mike
at least
really, many years Mike wasn't really treated well. They got
no,
Mike
he wasn't.
they got Mike to sign off the royalty rights way back.
They took his name off the songwriting credits.
Right.
That to me is. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, it's not a money thing because Ed or Al or Dave, they don't need the money. So it becomes a control thing, a power thing. Because I'm going to do it. It just, I don't know, man. It really cheapens everything, a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It's hard to know. Maybe we'll never know the story. I don't know.
No, we never will. No way.
Can I just cut in?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, good. I have to, if you guys know me, I have to take a minute and address this chat. I want to say hello and thank you to being here, everybody. My brother Big G, Tholander, Lenny Lou, and Mary, Brendan, of course, Thomas Santiago, Bent Tom, Halface, thanks for being here. Of course, Johnny Bean, the incomparable Johnny Bean. Thank you so much. You helped a lot of people that day when they had no one else to turn to. You were there, so thank you. Charles Green, thanks for being here. And anybody else just tuning in, Blackjack Katana, how could I forget you? Hello, and thanks all for being here. We love you. Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
And Sandra,
yes.
Excuse me, Tony, to follow on your greetings there, I wanted to tell everybody about this remarkable little plaque you guys got me. Again, I'm trying to let people see this. Can you? Can you
Move
read
it toward
it
the
at
camera.
all?
It says
Move it toward the camera. Yeah, you can see it.
recognizing Steve Rosen, legendary rock journalist, great storyteller, with our thanks, Fruitcake Tony and Sandra Pokorney, because your contribution to the show is immeasurable. We couldn't do it without you. We love you and thank you.
Well, that is just way too nice. And I saw this in the mail and I was truly blown away. And I wanted to share it live here with everybody. Because the truth of it is, without any of you guys out there in Chatland, if you guys are not there, I'm telling tall tales in a vacuum, right? So in a way, this belongs to you guys. It belongs to everybody. But I'm keeping it at my house. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Right on.
Very nice.
Yeah, well deserved. Well deserved.
I'm gonna run a interview clip, a short portion of a interview clip that Steve did with Eddie way back during Van Halen 1. And I want to go ahead and run that. Now, if you're listening, it's a short clip. We've raised the volume in our recording of this. You can hear it very well, but bear in mind that this was done during the Van Halen 1 album. So there had been nothing else after Van Halen 1 at the time, but this interview clip is remarkable, and you can go to YouTube and watch all of Steve's interviews. He's just got a new one with Eddie from 86 up there.
Yeah.
And it is great interview, great insight on what was happening with Eddie and Dave at the time. Stuff you've never heard before. But a lot of you have heard this, but some haven't, and you are going to marvel at this clip. But let's roll this clip.
Tony, before you roll it,
Yep.
just a couple comments, a little more of a backstory.
Sure.
So Ed, I'm in the house and I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm working on a story or listening to a record, and I hear a car pull up, and it's not just any car. It's like a, it's kind of, you can tell it's a fast car. So I look out and it's a Lamborghini. I go, what the fuck? And I see Ed get out. I see this guy get out, and I see Ed come up the stairs. He had been to my place before. I live about 15 minutes from Ed. Ed lived in Coldwater. So Ed would just come out of his house, make a right out of his house up Coldwater, make a right on Mulholland, and then make a right on Laurel Canyon. And I was right there. So it was real quick. And the way he drove, who knows, man? He was maybe there 3 minutes. So he gets out of the car and he comes up and he's got this big boom box that he always used to carry, like a monster boom box. He goes, "Hey man, what you doing?" You know, so he comes in and Ed is smoking. Ed was always smoking. Ed smoked more than any person I've ever met in my life. I mean, the kind where the cigarette's half burned out, and he puts it out, and I mean, every ashtray is filled. And cigarette smoke back in the day, well, it still does, gave me migraine headaches. I would smell cigarette smoke and I would get a migraine, and it was. So here's Ed at the front door smoking a cigarette. So what do I say? "No, Edward Van Halen, you can't smoke a cigarette. You can't come in." It's like, fuck. So Ed comes in and he's like, "Hey man," first he goes, "Hey man, you got an ashtray?" "Yeah, I got an ashtray." I think I had an ashtray that I stole from the whiskey. So I put the ashtray down, and I had a couch, and he sits on the couch. Just and I'm not exactly sure what he said, but before I started rolling tape, because I'm pretty positive I did not know he was coming over. It's not like I had my cassette hooked up and I was ready for him. I'm sorry about that, guys. I mean, it makes me kind of insane that, I didn't start recording earlier. But anyway, so he says, "Hey, man, sorry, guys, fucking telemarketers."
No. Oh.
So he's got the boombox. Says, "Hey, man, you got some new music or new stuff you want to hear? I want to hear, So I can't remember if he starts playing this stuff or he picks up my guitar and he starts playing, and then he'd play a track. I think he would like play the song and then he'd go, "Yeah, man, this is it," and then you'll hear what he's doing. And at one point, if you listen closely, he says, "Can I take off the knob?" And I think he's talking about the volume knob, or he's either talking about that or the toggle switch for the tones going between the pickups. For the life of me, I can't remember, because he says, "Oh yeah, I've got this that way on my guitar." So it must have been like that little toggle switch, like, so he pulls that off, and like he asked me, like, "Is it okay if I pull it off?"
Your guitar.
"No, Edward Van Halen, don't touch my fucking guitar." It's like telling no, Van Gogh, you can't use my paintbrush.
Right.
No, John Steinbeck, you can't use my typewriter. It's like,
Yeah.
So that's kind of the backstory, So he's there, and yeah. So here you go. Take a listen.
All right. Now, bear in mind, this was during Van Halen 1. We knew nothing other than Van Halen 1 at the time. Everybody have a listen.
Well, that last thing that you heard with the poppy one, that one we just wrote like 3 days ago in the studio. I just had this riff. Actually, here's how it used to go. It's just totally different, And well, we just cut the fat off, made it simpler, and everybody goes, "Hey, it's called Dance the Night Away."
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's a real dance the night away.
Unbelievable.
That is so cool. And you know what I said to him? I think about it now and I cringe. I don't know if I say it on the tape or not. It might have been before the tape started, or maybe it's coming up. I don't remember. Real quick, I was telling you guys I don't really listen back to my interviews, so it's hard for me to remember what I said. So me hearing this, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time in, 78, 88, 98, 2008. What was that, 42 years? Anyway, so I said, "Oh, Dance the Night Away." I go, "Yeah, Cream have a song with the same title." And he goes, "Oh, really?" I go, "Yeah." And I'm trying to remember how the Cream song goes, why I would say that. It's so fucking dumb. I say, "Yeah, man, but the songs don't sound anything alike, But he goes, "Oh, okay, You know, it's funny that Ed calls it poppy. I mean, you know, we think of Ed as this, you know, hard rock, you know, blues, stylish guy, man. But Ed, I mean, you listen to his changes and you know his harmonic interpretation, the way he put chords together. Um, you know, I mean, it's really kind of singable stuff, and a lot of that was Dave, certainly Dave coming up with those melodies and stuff. But I remember I was coming home. I had the chance to go to a NAMM show with Ed. For those who don't know, NAMM is National Association of Music Merchandisers, Music Manufacturers. It's where all the guitar makers and amp makers and pedal makers and drum makers and, you know, tchotchkes and knickknacks and everything, you know, get together for like 3 days. They have one out here in Anaheim. They have one in Nashville, I think, or in Chicago, and they have one in New Orleans. And Ed had invited me to go because he was going to take Rudy, his guitar tech. At the last minute, Rudy couldn't go, so he asked if I wanted to go, and I said, "Fuck yeah, I want to go." So,
Nice.
so we went, and my point being, so we go, and that's another episode, and hanging out with Ed for 3 days, and I was like, talk about the fucking Pied Piper. He walked into this fucking NAMM show, and I mean, I've been to the NAMM show where there were heavy people. I mean, Jeff Beck was at a booth, not when Ed was there, but I'm saying at earlier NAMM shows. You know, Stevie Wonder. I mean, the heaviest people in the world. And Ed walks in, and it was like he was parting the Red Sea. People were looking and going, and I mean, there was a tail of people behind him. I mean, I've never seen. It was unbelievable. His allure and his attraction, and people wanting to be near to him. So we spend the time in New Orleans. We come back, and Valerie picks us up. Ed had a bunch of Jeeps, so she picks us up at LAX, and we're driving along, and a Bryan Adams song comes on, and he goes, "Oh man, Bryan Adams! I love Bryan Adams." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Oh my God, he's so fucking great." And then that Robert Palmer song came on, Simply Irresistible. And he goes, "My God, man, listen to that song and listen to the hi-hat." I mean, the guy was not just a guy who played extraordinary guitar and had this thing, man. He really had a sense of you know, music structure and you know, harmonic content. And remember talking about Madonna, you know, just, "Yeah, I love Madonna." She's like, "I wish she wouldn't sing and sound like a chipmunk, but God, she's so good, you know." I mean, he's just unbelievable, just unbelievable. So
Wow.
Got to go
yeah,
to
so for him
NAMM with Eddie. That's incredible.
that
Yep.
was pretty cool. They had
You
he
could
had
have
a
just
limo come pick us up, you know, and he told me on a Thursday, and I think he was leaving the next or a Wednesday, because typically the NAMM show is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, maybe Sunday. So I think it was like a Wednesday, and I was over at his house for some reason, and he says, "Hey, you want to go to the NAMM show?" And you know, so I had to be there the next morning really early, because with the time change, getting to the airport from his house was probably an hour drive. So I had to be there by 7 in the morning. So again, you know, at 7 in the morning, there was no traffic. So I kind of wake up early and I zip over there, and he's just kind of, you know, rolling out of bed. He's kind of, you know, we're kind of getting there. And so we get in the limo, and he breaks open a bottle of vodka. What the fuck was that? What was that noise? Is that you, Tony?
Wasn't me, bruh.
have no
I
idea.
heard it too.
So he breaks open a bottle of vodka, and
Friend
Ed
it.
starts drinking, you know, and again, alcohol would somebody there?
No.
Alcohol would I would get bad migraines, and especially like vodka or something. But I thought, fuck, I gotta take a drink, and so I take one little drink, and I'm like buzzed the whole way there, and you know, pretty unbelievable. We get on the plane, you know, and these fucking stewardesses, oh my God. I would have given an arm to be Edward Van Halen for 1 hour. Not even because of the guitar playing, which was just the fucking, my God, these stewardesses, I mean, oh, can we help you? And, what do you need? And, oh, it was, I'll tell you one last story about that. Ed had befriended Mark Gastineau. Mark Gastineau, I think was defensive end.
New York Jets.
Right?
Yep.
New
Yeah.
York
Oh, yeah.
Jets. This guy.
I haven't heard
And
that.
somehow they had become friendly. So
Wow.
Ed was getting into the football thing a little more. And I don't know if I was over at Ed's and Mark was there. And the guy was just the nicest fucking guy. I have never been around a guy that big in my life. I think Mark and Brendan, you can tell me. I mean, he's like 6'5" or 6'6". He was like 250 or 260.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot imagine how big these fucking football guys are. You
Yeah.
see them on the field and they're all that big. But I mean, a mere mortal, and I'm small by anybody's, estimation. I mean, the guy, but he was so cool and he loved Ed. And they were hanging out. And we were talking and shit. And Ed had tickets to a Raiders game. So we all went to the Raiders game. And then afterwards, we got like backstage, whatever you call the backstage at the
Locker room, probably, right?
Coliseum locker room. Thank you. And all the cheerleaders were there. Oh my fucking God. And Ed is there. And I'm telling you, there's like 84 cheerleaders. And I'm looking at this and going, I can't even, and you're trying to talk to one. It's like you're trying to talk to a cheerleader with Ed Van Halen in the room. It's like,
yeah, you're not getting anywhere there, Steve. You're like, no way, man.
Fucking nowhere. And I say, I'm good friends
Not
with
a bad
Ed.
place to be.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Not a bad
I guess
place
if it
to
can't
be.
be Ed being, next
You're
to
there.
Ed
Not too many
good
people.
enough.
Nobody else can say that, though, Steve.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was pretty good. I mean, I was famous by association. And I'll give you one last story here that kind of ties this in.
You're famous in your own right.
I'm at this NAMM show in New Orleans, and Ed is going to jam. He's going to jam on. I forget what he jams on, but so John Entwistle's in the room, Brian May is in his room, and Ted Nugent is in his room. I can't remember if Alan Holdsworth was there or not. So before they go out, to one of the stages, the Fender stage or whatever guitar Ed was playing at the time, Kramer, can't remember. So we're all in his room, and it's like, being in a room with those guys, it's like, I mean, I truly felt invisible. And not that I have any reason not to. It wasn't my gig, But it's like Ed is, talking to these guys. And, I mean, that's what he should have been doing. But it's like, I was like the stilted girlfriend, and the boyfriend's talking to all his buddies and she's in the corner. Yeah. Well, talk to me, And I don't know what I did, man. I don't know if I was pouting or I said something to him. And he could have said, fuck you, you're here, just be, I mean, he could have said any number of things, which any number of people would have said to me. Hey, man, get over it. Fuck you. He says, hey, man, you're here, I'm here. It was just a nice thing for him to say. It's like, all of a sudden I was cool and, I mean, in his head, I was there with Brian May and John Entwistle and Ted Nugent. He didn't have to talk to me. He didn't have to even see me, but in his head, I was there. And that's
He
that's
always
the kind
kept
of person
it real. Yeah, exactly.
That's who he was. And honestly, I don't know how he was able to do that all the time. I think that at some time that did get to him. I mean, celebrity on that level is
I hear lots
pretty
of
awful.
examples of that about Eddie.
Yeah.
Lots of examples how
Yeah.
he treats and looks at everybody like he's not. You've said in many times to me that you've never heard him brag about I'm this or I'm that or nothing.
Never.
Yeah,
You heard what he said on the tape. He goes, "Yeah, we just cut off the fat. Yeah, a little poppy thing." I mean, that's because in his head he knows what that is. He knows what it is, and to be able to get to that point, you know what I mean, to be that secure in yourself,
Yep.
it's a
did
hard
you
place to get to.
realize in that I knew you realized greatness already, but did you have any idea that he was playing you one of the most recognizable, iconic songs of our my lifetime?
I didn't have a clue. I'm listening to it now and I go, wow, that is a pretty fucking cool riff. And just watching him play and the way he played it. And if you listen to his pick attack, oh my God, his sense of timing. Oh my God. I'll tell you, Al is Al and Al does his thing. That fucking all that rhythm comes from Ed. All of it.
Yeah,
As he's playing these other songs, I'm thinking, God, these are, unbelievably cool songs. I had no sense that they were going to become what they were going to become, or, no, I didn't have a clue. In fact, I was kind of more blown away when he, kind of did Crossroads and all that stuff, because that I could relate to. That I knew what that was. And watching him
yeah,
play that, and note for note and phrasing and getting the clap and vibrato, and it's like, wow. You know, if you hear all those early Van Halen tapes, when they were still doing covers, you can see why they were drawing people in just as a cover band, because their covers were so unbelievable.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Steve,
pretty unbelievable.
let me I want to show a couple of things since we're talking about Ed here. Um, we talk lots of guitar picks week in and week out, but Van Halen in 1981 was the first guitar pick that I ever got at a concert. And that night, August of 81, I was a collector from that point on all the way to now. So there would not be any of this. And
Nice.
Wow.
that is
That is the pick that started it all.
that's the pick that started it all. And when I caught this, I caught it like this, and I looked down on it and saw the logo, and I looked up at Ed, and he's looking at me, grinning, looking at this pick.
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, let
That's
me
a
show you guys
that's a
one
goosebump
more.
moment. That is a goosebump moment, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I
Absolutely.
keep this on the wall. I took this picture among many others. I got a couple enlarged. This is July of 82 in Greensboro. And I was just a kid holding a pocket camera.
Nice.
It's amazing photos, though,
You
Tony.
know, do you see how it looks like Ed used to hold his pick not between, the first finger and thumb, but between the middle finger and
Yes,
thumb.
right. Exactly.
And he would do that flutter picking stuff, and I saw him do that stuff, and it was wow. Nice.
Yes, so that's the pick that began all this madness. I collect all kind of things. And speaking of, and Steve knows this too, in the past week,
Oh shit.
the memorabilia world, the Van Halen memorabilia world is turned loco crazy, upside down, stay away for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has.
I read somewhere too that like the music sales, Van Halen music sales went up like 6,000%.
I saw that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
their albums are back on the charts. That is just unreal.
I'm ready to do this.
I know you
Yeah.
are.
All right.
I'm leading up there. I'm leading up there. Hold on, babe. Hold on. All right. So first, before we have a post that Steve posted just a couple of days ago after Eddie passed, and we're going to read that. But first of all, I want to bring in our other member here, Mr. Bent Tom on the scene. Hey, Tom.
Hey, bud.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Sad Tom.
Sad Tom.
I'm not a big crier emotionally, but I just feel hollow. You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go on and just rehash what anyone else said, but just two things. I mean, I really appreciate everything that you do, Steve, and I don't know if you realize how much, like, for me when I was a kid, reading, you know, the articles, the interviews, that the work that you produced, to me was equally as important as reading the interview about Eddie Van Halen, because had you not been there, we wouldn't have these gems, this amazing material that will live on forever. And I want to thank you for that.
Amen to that.
And on a personal note, because I don't want to be selfish, because this isn't about me at all, but my sister called me and just said, "Are you okay?" And then 30 seconds later said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you already knew that he passed away." That's how much she knew what a big fan I was. I'm going to tear up, so I got to stop. But yeah, so my sister just said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm doing all right." But
nice to see you, Tom. I
yeah,
appreciate you reaching out this week.
Yeah.
It's been a tough week. All of us, it's been a very tough week.
Yeah.
I just
and I know
I'm
you
sorry,
were,
Tony. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
After you, sir.
I'm sorry, man. Tom, what you said, the reason I started writing, honestly, one of the reasons I started writing, I not that I had a sense of what I was writing might have an impact on somebody down the road. You know, I couldn't think that far ahead, but I did have a sense that I thought I was in a unique position in as much as, you know, I was a journalist and I was a guitar player, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. But as much as anything else, I loved these people I was meeting as much as anybody who was ever going to read that story. I mean, you know, it meant as much to me hanging out with Ed or meeting Jeff Beck or Jimmy Page or Pete Townsend or Peter as the most hardcore fan. I mean, if you had to measure it, I would be right there with the biggest, you know, Alice Cooper fan in the world, I think. And so when I'm writing this stuff, I mean, it was like I almost thought, well, okay, what if, you know, Ben Tom is in the room with me? You know, what would he want to know about Ed years later? What would he have asked Ed? You know, and I mean, I don't know if I was really conscious of it, but part of me was like, you know, being able to hold this magnifying glass up and let people look through it, let somebody being a fly on the wall. That's a phrase I've always used,
Yeah.
as an insight into these people. So, I mean, what you say means a lot to me. I mean, I hear people say that stuff, and it's like, for me, that's what it's about. I mean, it's, being a journalist is a it's kind of an isolated thing. You work in a vacuum, and I used to write these stories, and I honestly wondered, my God, guitar player wants me to write this story, but is anybody really ever going to read this story? I believed that for a long time, and that was my own insecurities, which I still struggle with. But it's like it was hard for me to imagine somebody opening a magazine and reading that and going, yeah. It was just a weird connection. I could never get the connection between reader and writer, but with the internet, and being able to read comments from people and the comments that they'd leave on this little piece that Sandra's going to read, hearing you say that stuff. I mean, that to me is like, absolute validation for, doing this thing I've done for like 50 years. So thank you so much for that.
Well, your passion is evident. I mean, you deserve more than even you probably receive. I mean, definitely, it's
absolutely
100%.
Right. You are why we learned more about our heroes and were hungry for at that time. You enabled us to learn more about them, and we remember. We remember it. We can quote stuff from back in the day.
Yeah.
You are a part of this history, very much so.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So
Thank you.
yeah. So let's move along here to Steve. You put up a Facebook post a couple of days ago in lieu of all of this week's events, and we found it very moving. And with your blessing, we want to read that now and share that.
I'd be honored.
All right, so let's
Here we go.
let's hear this post.
This is per Steve Rosen via Facebook. I never post on Facebook. Oh, and a quote. I never post on Facebook. I thought I'd leave this one. I'm not sure exactly what to write about Edward. I can tell you how I feel, like my heart is devouring itself. I haven't spoken to Edward for years, but that doesn't make his loss any less devastating. I did call him a few months ago and left a message on his voicemail, but I never heard back from him. Now I never will. I'm not going to tell you how he changed the very vocabulary of rock guitars, single-handedly revolutionized the crafting of custom guitars, or influenced a generation of guitar players as much as, if not more than anybody who ever picked up the instrument. I've said all that before. What I can tell you is for a number of years we were pretty good friends. I can tell you he was generous, funny as fuck, and honest as hell. I can tell you I was in awe every moment I spent with him. There is one last thing I can tell you. I jammed with Edward Van Halen. One evening, I'd gone over to his house for some reason. He may have called, which he'd do from time to time, and say he wanted to hang out and spend some hours out in 5150, his studio. His guitars were laying all over the place, strewn on the floor, standing up in corners, and the outboard gear was turned on and lit up like the cockpit of an airplane. He picked up one of his Strats and handed it to me and said, "Let's jam." I looked at him sideways and thought, right, I'll just jam with Eddie Van Halen. I can do that. Ed picked up a bass, plugged in, and looked at me and saw I was frozen in place. He said something like, "Just play the fucking guitar." It's hard to remember exactly what he said, but that was the import of it. So I was sitting there with one of his butchered strats in my arms while he reached over to the Marshall I was plugged into and adjusted the volume and tone. I'd turned the volume all the way down on the guitar because I couldn't even bring myself to make a sound. In the meantime, Ed had plugged the bass into another rig and was starting to noodle around. If I was partially inert before, I was now a statue. I had gazed into the eyes of Medusa and I was made of stone. My fingers refused to work, and I could barely remember how to hold a pick. He continued to mess around on the bass and looked over at me again because nothing was happening. He didn't say a word, but shot me a look that said, "Come on, it's no big deal, just play." I loved him for that. I could breathe again. I turned the volume knob, held the pick steady, strummed a chord, and it was the fucking most beautiful guitar sound I had ever heard. It was the chord heard round the world, a clarion call, the siren sweetly singing, the fucking voice of God. I had played guitar for many years prior to this, and I've had Marshalls, Fenders, acoustics, Ampegs, Line 6s, as well as every guitar from a St. George 12-string to a Mustang Strat Telecaster Les Paul and Ibanez. And I've never come within 1,000 miles of a tone like this. I've never been in the same universe as a sound like this. I turned up the volume a bit louder and started fiddling around. I looked over at Ed to make sure I wasn't fucking up or annoying him, and he flashed me one of his heartwarming smiles, and that's all I needed. For about the next hour, we jammed. I tentatively started playing a riff I'd written for one of my songs. I'd been a songwriter for years, and Ed said, "What's that?" I told him it was something I wrote, and he started working up bass parts. He had me keep playing the same riff over and over as he came up with ideas. It was an extraordinary moment because for a brief second, I had a close encounter with the way Edward approached his own songwriting. I could hear him refining the ideas on bass and searching around for what would follow the riff. His sense of harmony was so groundbreaking, and he started coming up with these riffs that took the song to a place I couldn't have imagined in 10,000 years. Ed had inserted a cassette into the boombox when we first started playing. He recorded everything he ever did, and I can remember seeing boxes and boxes of tapes. When we were done, Ed handed me the tape. The gesture was perfect. Edward understood exactly who he was and what it meant for me to sit there with him for an hour and jam. He had that sense about himself, and in all the times I spent with him, I never heard him brag or boast about his own playing. Never. Which is why for that one evening, I was just another guitar player, an equal. When we were done, Edward started talking about my song. He asked what I was doing with it and stuff like that, and I couldn't believe I was having this conversation. I muttered something about it just being a riff I had, and he said he wanted to work on it some more, and would that be okay? He even hinting at maybe working it up in some form or another for the next album. He said those words to me again. It's insanely hard to remember exactly what he said because it's probably somewhere over 35 years ago, and I couldn't believe I was hearing them. I had been a struggling songwriter for years, and then in the blink of an eye, Eddie Van Halen tells you he wants to work on your song. I was buoyant, speechless, transformed. That's all I could think about in the weeks to come. Nothing ever happened with the song. Of course, Van Halen never recorded it. I was heartbroken, pissed off, and disillusioned, but not surprised. I knew the chances of that riff ever finding its way onto a Van Halen album was about as likely as me dating Jennifer Connelly. Pretty fucking unlikely. But for one night, I did play guitar with Edward Van Halen. I just took that tape out and listened to it. Ed's playing was magical, of course, and mine, pretty fucking cool. I've not spoken with Ed for decades. We had a falling out over what I thought was an incredibly stupid misunderstanding, but he didn't think so and never talked to me again. And that hurt for a long time, but I finally got over it. Sometimes it seems as if I never really knew him or met him, and that I've made up all these stories and I never interviewed him or wrote about him. But the truth is, for about 10 years or so, I was lucky enough to have been part of his life. I am grateful for that. I miss him. End quote.
That was nice, Sandra.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. I can't believe I wrote that. You made it sound really nice, Sandra.
I just wrote the words. I read what you wrote.
Wonderfully written, Steve.
Thank you, man.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Thank you. You know, like I said, I can never listen back to my interviews, the actual interview, and I can never read what I've written either. So after I posted that, I didn't read it again. You know, people responded to it. I think I answered just about everybody who asked a question or had a comment, but for some reason I could just never bring myself to read something I've written. But that was pretty cool. And I mean, there are moments when you write something and it doesn't happen very awesome. I'm reading what's here. Very often, sorry. That you'll read something and you'll go, God, that's really good. Thanks, Johnny. Thank you, everybody. And you go, God, that's really good. You know, it's like something you see online or some little paragraph. You go, God, that writer is really good, and it's yours. You know, and those are pretty cool moments. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't remember writing this, and I did know, I mean, I tried. I wanted to be something special, but I thought maybe it's too soppy or too maudlin or too romantic. But hearing Sandra read it like that, and hopefully that's how people interpreted it, because your interpretation of that was perfect.
Thank you.
Very welcome. That's that's what I was hoping people were going to get out of it. So I'm really touched that you guys would do this.
Had to.
Yeah.
A little urging on my part, but Tony was okay with it. So
she read me this a day or two ago, and it just,
because Tony's not on Facebook, so I knew he'd never seen it, and I had to be shared with Fruitcake, and I was like, we got to, let's just read it on the show. It's just so beautiful and so profound and so poignant, and just what an amazing thing to have happen, and what an amazing possession to have. Something that's probably it's got to be one of the most priceless possessions that you have, I would imagine.
The tape.
Yeah.
It's it's pretty special.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm afraid to listen to too much of it. I think I just queued up a second. I think Ed was noodling. I go, oh, fuck, listen to Ed. So either I'm going to sound horrific, or I'm going to be like, fuck, I sound like Jimmy Page or something. And that's not going to happen. But, I mean, it can never, in your head, whatever it is, it's never going to be what's on the tape. And, and it really doesn't matter. But
Gary in the chat.
I remember one other time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Gary was asking in the chat about hearing that tape. Will that ever be something that you make available, or?
I've had a few people ask. I think for $10.99, yeah, you could get a copy.
There you go, Gary.
It's funny because I mean, obviously I can't use Ed's bass parts. But the riff was mine, and some people said, well, man, just take the riff and see if you could actually finish the song. So that might be something. I don't know. I mean, I guess I just might need a little time to go back and listen to the tape, but I think I might share a little bit of it. I'll find that 30-second bit where I'm blazing away, and maybe Ed doesn't sound so fucking good all the time. But no. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably allow some of that to come. Well, I'll probably put some of that in, because again, I mean, I like that idea of letting people kind of you know, look over my shoulder and be a part of that
Hi,
thing.
this is
So
Mark Gonzalez, chair of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party with an important message for voters.
sorry, guys. Political
We
announcement.
we all get them. We all get them.
I know.
Oh man. But
Several
I
I
know.
was going to say something else. Oh, just real quickly, sort of along the same lines. I forget which album it's on. A Cathedral, is that the second record? The Ed's instrumental with the volume thing.
82, Diver Down.
Diver down.
Look who I'm asking here. I remember Ed saying, "Hey man, listen to this," and it was a song. It was just, you know, I think it's just his guitar. I don't think there's anything else on there at all, is there? And there's no drums or bass or anything, no keyboards. Yeah, certainly no keyboards. So it's, you know, it's this thing. I go, wow, that's pretty cool. He goes, yeah, man, we need a song title. I go, really? He goes, yeah, man, can you come up with something? I spent the next 2 days, I swear to God, I handed him a list. I must have come up with 500 song titles. He goes, oh man, sorry, we already got a name, Cathedral. Isn't that cool? I go, yeah, Ed, that's
Oh.
great.
Jeez,
Fuck.
man. Oh wow.
You almost got to name it.
What I should say is I should tell everybody, hey, Cathedral was my song title.
We believe you. We believe you too, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. And one last comment here, real quick. Nice.
Wow.
You know, that
Cool.
that tone, you know, that place that I found, that voice for that little piece that you read, Sandra.
Yeah.
You know, back in '85, you know, I don't know, some of you may know, some of you may not know. I was going to write a book on Ed. Cool. He had given me permission to actually write his authorized biography. It was going to be an autobiography, and I started working on it. The book never happened. Part of me was, you know, I was really angry that it never happened, but part of me was overjoyed because I thought, well, how am I going to write a book on Edward Van Halen? How could I ever do justice to this guy? How could I ever find these words that are going to convey who this guy was and what his music was? And, you know, that thing that I found in that little bit there, you know, I think I could have translated that into the book and, you know, kind of this, and I can't even find the word to describe it, but I think that's the tone this book could have taken. And, you know, I'm pretty egoless when it comes to my writing, and, you know, I'm always unsure about it and stuff. But I think the book could have really been something pretty extraordinary. I mean, I've read every Van Halen book that's been out there. And one, I don't think any of the authors have ever interviewed Ed. And it's just, you know, I mean, they were well written, they were good books, but they just, I don't know. I don't think they captured who Ed was. And, you know, I mean, it's disappointing that, you know, that book never happened. I mean, I think it could have been something pretty great as part of the Van Halen legacy, which Ed never had a sense of. He never had a sense of his own legacy. You know, I remember him saying, well, man, a book only comes out on somebody when, you know, their career is over. I go, yeah, they don't. They come out when they're in the middle of it. And I think Springsteen had just come out with a book, and oh my God, you know, so, but that was his thought process. And, oh man. Yeah, so I worked on that for a couple of years. You know, I'd gathered interviews with guys he had played with and, you know, school buddies. I mean, there's some remarkable interviews in there. I interviewed Al pretty at length, and Mike. His mom passed away. And he goes, oh, did you talk to my mom for the book? I go, no, Ed, I'd asked you like 10 times because he said he was going to make that happen. I said, no, Ed, you never made that happen. You know, I never did. He goes, oh, and that's the kind of thing, you know, he'd like say something. He'd say, hey, I want to work on your song. Hey, I want you to interview my mom. And then, you know, he'd be off working on his music. And yeah, that's Day on the Green. That's a Neil Slozauer shot. I think that's the second time I had met Ed. And so, yeah, so I, you know, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry that book never happened, because now that I think about it, I mean, I think I could have written a really good book, you know, and I think it's a missing piece in the Van Halen legacy. But there you go. Yeah, and that might have been around the time of that interview that's up there currently. You guys would know years better than me. But is
86.
that circa 86?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, so that was maybe that was the night at that show, or the night when I interviewed him. That interview is from I forget where I went to go interview them. They were on the road. One last little anecdote here. David Frick, who was the editor for Rolling Stone, was also out there doing a major cover story on Van Halen. I remember he was in there talking. I know it was Ed and Sammy. It might have been the entire band. And it was in one of their rooms. And I was like sitting in the corner, and David started talking. And I knew if I was kind of interviewing somebody, sometimes a publicist would sit in on an interview, or the manager, or somebody would sit in, and it totally disrupts the dynamic. The person being interviewed, they're aware of that person, or it's just a different thing. So I was just going to excuse myself, but I said, "Hey, David, do you mind if I stay?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't care." So I stayed, and anyway, I mean, the guy is a total pro. He's an unbelievably talented writer, has written unbelievably great stories. But that interaction that he had with the band wasn't the same one I had. Mine was cooler. I'm not saying I wrote a cooler story. I'm not saying that the Guitar World story was a better written story. But I know that connection I had with Ed, and I think with some of the other guys, was like on a higher plane than what David's was. So that made me feel pretty good. Anyway. So enough Van Halen. Let's get to Blackmore.
Blackmore. Should we do Deep Purple? Should we do? We're already an hour, almost
okay.
an hour and a half. Should we do Deep Purple next week, Steve, in lieu of all of this?
We could. You want me to give you the one Van Halen / Deep Purple story?
Yeah, segue.
Absolutely.
That's a good segue into it.
Give it to us. Give it to us. Yeah.
Okay. So, Rainbow is playing at the Long Beach Arena, which is about, 50 miles south from me. Long Beach. It's a big port. And I mean, I knew Ed was a monster Blackmore fan. But it's funny, I remember one of the first times I interviewed Ed, when I heard the first Van Halen record, my first thought was, wow, it's kind of like, supersonic Deep Purple. I mean, it was fast shuffles, and I got a lot of Blackmore in Ed's playing. I don't know if it was accurate, but that's what I heard. So anyway, flash forward a little bit. Blackmore and Rainbow are playing at the Long Beach Arena, and I'd gotten a couple of tickets and backstage passes. And I asked Ed, I said, "Ed, you want to go see Blackmore?" And Rainbow goes, "Yeah, man, that'd be cool." So I go over to Ed's house, and Ed drove one of his Jeeps. And Ed had like this, like, I don't know what kind of Jeep it was, but, it was like open at the top, and Jeeps ride pretty rough. And, he's driving. Ed was actually a very good driver. So we go down there. By the time we got there, it was a little bit late. I forget who opened. So Ed, instead of like finding a spot on the street, which is going to be impossible, or on the lot, which is probably also pretty packed, he like pulls up like on this meridian, this little strip of lawn, and just leaves the car there. I thought, there's no way this fucking Jeep is going to be here when we come out. I thought, fuck it, it's Eddie. He's got money. He'll get a taxi. He'll get us home. So So we go in, and we walk in, and the seats were pretty good. I mean, they were like 10th row on the floor. I mean, they were good seats. They were like press seats. And we go in, and we find the seats, and nothing is happening. And then I look over, and I can see a couple of people recognize Ed. And I look the other way, and a couple of people over there recognize Ed. And within, I swear, 4 minutes, he is surrounded by people, want autographs. Hey, Ed, how you do? And it's just amazing. And he was just so cool with these people. I mean, he didn't say, "Hey, I want to just listen to the concert," or "Hey, I'm busy." I mean, he signed stuff, and he was cool. So the lights go down, and Blackmore plays. And to be honest, I can't remember the set at all. It was early in Rainbows. I'm guessing this is, I don't know, man. I want to say the second record, something 78, 79. I don't know if that sounds right. It's pretty in their career. So Richie was still playing cool. He was still playing Richie. So afterwards, we go backstage, and I had met Richie several times. And so we're back there, and oh, I'm sorry. The reception took place on the Queen Mary. Queen Mary is the that big recreation boat that's docked in the, docked there. I don't think it was actually going out anymore. I don't think it would actually went anywhere. I think it was just there, and I think you could like spend the night there and, have weddings there and stuff. And so we go in there, and Ed gets a drink, and we look around, and I see kind of Richie over in the corner, which is surprising because Richie never shows up backstage anywhere. He's always gone, he's always out of there. So I'm thinking to myself, this is a once in a lifetime moment. Ed had never met Blackmore. I knew Blackmore had never met Ed. I'm going to be the cat to introduce these two guys. I thought, this is going to be fucking happening. So we walk over there, and I say, "Hey, Richie, Steve Rosen." Goes, "Yeah, hey, how you doing?" And he seems cool enough. And he's kind of looking at Ed, and Ed is like kind of standing back from me like a step or two. And I can see that Ed is, a little bit in awe. I mean, it's Richie fucking Blackmore. I mean, come on. And so I think Ed goes up, and Ed extends his hand first, and Richie shakes it, and I think Ed says something like, "Man, I listen to your playing. I used to do Purple songs," which they did, in the early Van Halen cover days, or something like that. Some big compliment. And Richie looks at him, and goes, "Wait," he says, don't tell me. I know who you are." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my fucking God, he didn't really say that. He's not going to be fucking Blackmore. Not tonight. Not now. He's not going to do that, But he was fucking Richie, man. And, I'm looking at Ed thinking, oh my God, he must feel like shit. And Ed's there kind of smiling, and trying to go with it. And I mean, Ed is crushed. I mean, I can see it. Who wouldn't be? I mean, who would not be?
Right.
And I think part of that, well, Richie was just being an asshole, which he could be on any given day. But he sure as fuck knew who Van Halen was. And he knew that Eddie was the new kid in town. And, it's all Richie could do to hang on to his own celebrity and his own legend and that kind of thing. But, Ed at that point in time didn't get any of that. All Ed knew is, fuck, this guy fucking insulted me. And, so, we kind of stand there for a few more minutes and just kind of walk away. And I said, "Ed, Jesus, I am so fucking sorry." He goes, "Oh, man, it's okay. It's okay." But I knew, man. I mean, I knew, I mean, it's unimaginable what that must have felt like. It would have been like Ed saying to me, and I'm not equating me with Ed or me with Blackmore or anything like that. But emotionally, it would have been like Ed saying, if I was jamming with him or if I was interviewing him, God, that is the stupidest fucking question I've ever heard. You are a, why would you ask me that? You know what I mean? Just, going to the core of who you are and just, cutting that down. Anyway, that's my Blackmore Van Halen connection. And wow. Real quickly, I can tell you that a little while, well, actually several years later, I did introduce Ed to Billy Gibbons, also on the Queen Mary. ZZ Top were playing also at the Long Beach Arena, and they had the reception afterwards at the Queen Mary, and I introduced those two, and it was like, I mean, Billy loved Ed. Ed loved Billy. These two guys got along. And I also had the amazing opportunity to introduce Ed to Les Paul. There was a Guitar Center Rock Walk induction, and Ed was being inducted that night. I think Les Paul was just there. I don't think he was being inducted that night. Anyway, I thought, holy fuck, I got to get these two guys together. So I got those guys up in a room, and I'm asking Les, who this guy is facetiously, and Ed, obviously you know who Les Paul is. So I remember asking a couple more questions, and then Ed saying, "Hey man, enough! I'm going to ask the questions." And so Ed became like the interviewer, and these guys had this conversation. That was pretty cool. So okay, enough. If you guys would fucking stop babbling, get this fucking thing on the road. God.
Sorry, Steve.
Wow, you guys talk.
I'm trying to find
That
a
loud noise
shot.
is me hitting my knee on my desk, so excuse me while I swear really loud.
Steve, I could listen to your stories all day, so I'm just going to let you. If you have any stories, I'll always let you go because I could listen. I would be here for 14 hours, like trying to stay awake just because I still wanted to hear them. It's pure gold to me.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Listen,
I don't know if anybody has seen it. You spoke about Les Paul.
Yes.
Go ahead.
After you, Steve.
I'm sorry, guys. Listen, selfless self-promotion here, guys. If you guys dig the stories, and you dig the Van Halen audio interview and stuff, go to my YouTube page, and subscribe. That's what they tell me to tell you guys. So if any of you guys could do that, we'd appreciate it. And there you go. So what was your story, Tony?
Everybody go do that.
Yes.
Everybody.
Amazing
From
interviews
your
there.
Minecraft accounts. That's all there is to it.
And it's a new one up there.
Or pins.
86 Van Halen. And it's juicy too. Ed spills the beans on Roth. And speaking of Roth, today, October the 10th,
Happy birthday.
David Lee Roth turns 66 years old today. Dave.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dave.
But you spoke of Les Paul, Steve. There's a shot, and I don't have it in my phone. I don't know if you have it, Sandra. There's a picture of you and Eddie and Don Landy and Les Paul all together. Holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah, that was that night. And it's funny because Don Landy, I will bet you that's the only picture ever taken of Don Landy in his entire life.
Wow.
I mean, I'm joking, but certainly there was never a picture of Don, professionally. And Don came there that night. And I remember Don sitting there with Les Paul. I mean, Don was, you hear all those guitar sounds and stuff. And, Don and, Don was Ed's boy. I mean, those guys were so.
Oh, yeah, they were.
So.
Joined at the hip.
Is that picture on your Facebook?
Yeah, and then.
Steve?
Yeah, it is. I think it's one of the pictures I put up there. But yeah, so that was that night at Guitar Center. Yeah, that was a good night.
Yep. What do you think's going to happen with Wolfgang, the kid, Steve? Is he going to
I
make
think
music? Is he going to tread on, or what do you think's going to
yeah,
happen?
I think Wolf and Al are going to get together and they'll go find another guitar player and a singer or two guitar players or yeah, I mean it would be hard to imagine them not playing music and it just I don't know, it would make sense for me to see those guys, kind of remaining that rhythm section. um, yeah, I mean that's my thought. I mean somebody might think differently, but that's what I think will happen.
Yeah. You think they'll, Mike Anthony, Hagar, you think they'll work with those guys?
I never thought about that actually. Hard to see how Mike would fit in, if Wolf is there. But I mean, Mike could come in and sing.
Wolf play
Yeah, he
guitar, and
could.
Mike play bass.
Yeah,
Um,
you never know.
what I hear, and you know this, Steve, for years and years and years, even way back in the day, there's lots of reel-to-reel tapes with music on it
Let me see if I can
that
share this.
that there is an amazing amount of music there.
Yeah, there is.
And
And
whether,
like I said before, sorry, go ahead.
nah,
I think you're going to say probably there could be another album with some lost music, right? I mean, put together with some
Yeah,
like a Prince thing,
yeah, because I'd
finding
actually,
all that stuff.
yeah, exactly, and the Hendrix thing. I mean,
Right.
I mean, I'd read, you guys probably read too, that the family's actually going through it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I
ostensibly,
read
Wolf
that.
was the one. Well, Wolf had gotten those tracks together for that
Okay.
that last record they made. Different kind of, what's it called?
Different kind of truth.
Wish me luck.
Just, so I heard that Wolf found all those tracks. So
Tony?
yeah, I mean there were, I mean there were boxes of cassettes.
Is that
Wow.
the
Plus
picture?
all the reel-to-reels he must have. Yeah, I mean there's probably. Oh, there it is. Yeah,
That's a great shot.
that is such a good picture.
Wow.
Wow.
Not a bad looking bunch either.
No, that's
I
good
was
company
almost-
right there.
I was almost human looking. Yeah.
That
That's
is
cool, but,
that is mighty fine company.
Well, it's
Yeah, it's pretty
to
cool.
me that picture is 4 icons of their craft.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes, Steve.
please.
It is. It really is.
It is.
I wouldn't
Well
even,
said, Tom.
I wouldn't even begin to go there, but thank you for that. But yeah, so Ed, yeah, there's probably enough music there. My God, the kind of box sets they could do. And I talked before about Ed's legacy, about never understanding it, why there wasn't a definitive box set made. My God, every other band on the planet has these ridiculous box sets, the box set they could have put together. Oh my God. So yeah, so maybe that stuff will see the light of day. I mean, somebody's going to have to go through it.
Mhm.
No, they'll find something.
Yeah, whether it does or not. And it would be nice. Alex is on up there in age, and he is a drummer. I've never heard him having any health problems, but what I was going to say is it would be nice to see him in some capacity make music again,
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Or he'll put out some. He'll go hang out in the studio and bring in some buddies and do some stuff. I mean, yeah. I can't imagine they would just be able to turn the music off like that. I think that'd be impossible for those guys.
Yep.
Johnny says that he's been down there. Johnny lives on the West Coast near there, and I saw it on the news. There's a place near their childhood home where Ed and Al were walking by the street, and on the sidewalk, on the curb, they wrote in wet concrete Van Halen, and it's still there. And there were folks that left stuff on that curb in the past week. Yeah.
Funny. I didn't know Johnny lived out here. I thought he lived back in the sticks with you guys somewhere. I'm kidding.
I think I think he is a little north of you, Steve, but yeah, he's on the West Coast.
Ah.
In the sticks. I heard that, man.
I live in the capital of Wisconsin. I'm not in the sticks.
I'm in the
sticks.
Sure.
I knew a girl from Neenah, Wisconsin.
Okay, yeah.
Neenah.
She
was the best foosball player I've ever seen. She played foosball. She goes, Steve, let's play foosball. Okay. That's funny. So I guess they play a lot of foosball in Neenah, Wisconsin.
Sure, eat a lot of cheese too.
No, I live close to Philly now, but I will say I did grow up in farm country in Pennsylvania. It's like, 4-H farm shows, dairy, cheese, cow farms, all that stuff.
Let me ask.
All those ribbons and buttons are from tractor shows.
I was going to say, I recognize. No. Yeah, I thought so.
Your tractor? They were your tractors?
We have 15 of them, yeah.
You had 15 tractors?
Did
you live on a farm?
We collect old Sears tractors. No, we live in the city. We're running out of room. We need a farm. Anyway.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Tom. Now, I know, like myself, you're a huge Van Halen lifer. You're a lifer.
Oh yeah, for years that's all I listened to. I wouldn't listen to anything else.
There is a number of us who are hardcore Van Halen fans, but let me ask you, as a lifer, what did that music and Eddie do to you in your lifetime? In a nutshell, if you could share that.
I'll give you the story of my first experience hearing him, because that was to me the epitome of my experience. I was born in 1976, so I first heard him in 1980. I was only 4 years old. But it was a couple weeks after I had met my best friend, who I've known now, I guess 40 years this year. And we went over to his house, and his dad had, vinyl records, and he had Van Halen 1. And his uncle was there, who's, I want to say, like 14, 15 years older than us. He was 18 or 19 at the time. And we were like I said, 4, maybe 5 years old. It was 80, 81. I think we were 4. And he goes, listen to this. Your heads are going to blow off. And I was thinking as a little kid that my head was going to explode. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that. I don't want my head to blow up. And he goes, no, just sit down and listen, kids. And we sat there. And I remember my feet couldn't even touch the ground. We were sitting on this couch. And I heard boom, boom, bah, the first open chord of eruption. And I just was like, and it literally just felt like my head was blown off my neck, because his dad had the old analog stereo, vinyl. Oh, yeah. And, we just listened to that whole thing. And I remember sitting there and I said, play it again. Play it again. And, I had to lift the needle, and we kept doing it. And he's like, well, let me do it, because you're going to scratch it. And he kept repeating it for us like 10 times. And he goes, all right, now listen to the rest of the album. And I looked at my friend, and his name's Joe, and we just said, no, play it again. And I couldn't understand. And I remember even being 11, 12. I started playing guitar at about 12 years old, and I remember first hearing it. And when I first started picking up guitar, I'm like, okay, that's got to be like 3 or 4 guitars in the studio. And I remember, pre-internet, obviously, and everything. I remember someone telling me, no, it's one guitar. And I was like, no, you're full of it. It's not one guitar. And he goes, no, it's one guitar. And I said, that's not possible. And he said, it's one guitar. And that always stuck with me. Just him looking at me going, and this was a friend of mine that was way better guitar player than me at the time, and he's way better than me at this point too. And he goes, no, it's one guitar. And I'm like, okay, like I guess it's one guitar, but I still couldn't believe it. So that's what it was for me. I mean, it was probably the only guitar player for me that, like, my perception of him as a very, very young kid to myself as an adult hasn't changed. Still blows my mind to this day, so that's what it meant to me in a nutshell. Is that, seeing something that, like, to me, it was like the Great Wall of China in rock music. Like, how is that even possible? Like, how could someone create such a thing? Like, just everything, the striped guitar, the volume, the ferocity, the swing. And I think, and I know a lot of people, in the community, people that are super fans talk about that, but I think a lot of people in the general public that just kind of maybe listen to Van Halen or Eddie in a cursory sense, they don't pick up how much I hear about, the technical aspect and the shredding, but the swing is what got me really, just the feel. I don't know what to say other than that. I mean, just intense, ferocious, and mind-blowing. Those are probably the 3 terms I would probably use.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, you call it swing, man. That's exactly what that was.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that he had. It didn't matter what he was playing. His internal rhythmic clock, man, was something else. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. So
Wow.
let me show this real quick. Last week, I got a copy of this. I've got bootlegs of a lot of Van Halen shows, a lot of the bootlegs of North Carolina past Van Halen shows that I was at. But I picked up this not really knowing it. I knew it was history, and I knew it was probably might be their last show. But this is the last show at the Hollywood Bowl, October the 4th, that they did on their last tour. And so it's ultimately the last Van Halen show. Yeah, so I'm glad I got that. Yeah. Well, let me just say that we are going to cover Deep Purple next week. We'll keep all this stuff in place. We got a lot of interview stories, lots of guitar picks with Deep Purple, White Snake, Rainbow. A lot of members of all these bands.
Stargazer.
We are giving away a Richie Blackmore guitar pick. Let me show that a week in advance. Let me get over to that one. That right there, that little arrowhead guitar pick is what he used. He liked that shape. And this is your giveaway next week.
That's so cool. I've never seen one of his. That's so cool.
I don't have many of these. And yeah, so
He used
we
to use.
wanted.
I'm sorry, Tony.
Now,
ahead.
what he used to use? What?
Sorry, man. He used to use a tortoise shell. I had one. He gave me one. I did a pictorial in Guitar Player magazine called The Pics of Rock and Roll. Anyway,
Yeah.
one of those pics was in there, and he had to stop using them because it's illegal. Or he still might be
Right.
using them. Who knows? But they don't make pics out of, and rightly so, out of tortoise shells anymore.
Right.
So,
Out of real tortoise, right? Yeah.
out of real tortoise.
Yeah.
But are they? It's all celluloid now? Is that what they use? I mean, the same as
Yeah.
regular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let me recognize Brendan. If anybody wants a cool cigar box guitar, he can sure make you one. And they're really nice, and those are his links. His links are also down in the description of this show. Many string options, paint options,
I haven't made a striped one yet, but maybe that's coming now.
You hadn't made a striped one yet.
I have not. I've seen a couple, but I have not made one.
Brendan, do you also sell on eBay?
I haven't.
On eBay?
No, I haven't. I just.
Maybe
I should. I might have to talk to you about that stuff.
And you should also really sell, if you don't, on Reverb.
Yeah.
Musical.
Etsy and Reverb are the same company now. And
are they?
They are. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So Etsy, one of them bought the other. So.
Probably Etsy. I don't think Reverb was.
Yeah, probably Etsy. So, I mean, I don't know how that works yet, but I'm getting more stuff on there. I haven't put more on because there's an art show that I do every Thanksgiving, and so I want to keep my inventory up because it takes me a little bit to build it up. But yeah, I have some other stuff. I have stuff on there.
I know that even some of the other platforms have looked at selling. I know one of the guys that started Pinterest. He went to my local high school in my hometown. He's down to earth, super crazy, down to earth guy. But he said they're even looking at a selling arm of Pinterest. Like, if you have all these collected interest, where can you go to buy this stuff? And so they're trying to do that themselves too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah. Rock on.
Thank you.
It's definitely
most welcome.
Definitely cool and fun to do. It's just it's a hobby, so it's not a full-time thing. Maybe when I retire, I'll do it full-time.
And they sound great with gain too, with distortion.
Oh, dude, they love fuzz, man. They love awesome pedal. That's for sure. So
yeah. We may be contacting you soon. The holidays are coming. Hint, hints, dropping hints.
Yep. I make lamps too, not just guitars, but like with the cigar boxes. I have a couple of lamps like this one.
Well, thank God. When people say they make lamps, I just think of Edgeen automatically.
So yeah, I make some cool lamps as well with little Edison bulbs.
The Edison bulb's cool. I was gonna say
a little area you can put some stash in there, put whatever you want in there.
Nice.
Brendan, did you see Lenny Luke's comment? She said when she orders one from you, she was going to request a stripe job on hers.
Yeah, that's gonna take some time, man. So, but yeah, I'll figure it out.
I can't wait to see that.
Oh man, that's gonna be it's gonna be tough.
I can't wait to see that. So we were gonna have a couple of moments with this week's events with Eddie passing, and then we were gonna glide into Deep Purple, but it does looking at the clock, it does look like that. I'm gonna have to change the show title
Right.
on this one, but yeah, but those interview, man, this stuff, those interviews that you have done, and it's a lot of them, Steve, with Eddie, is they are a part of Van Halen history, no doubt about it.
Yep.
And as humble and as modest as you are, those we could listen all day long.
I could.
I could too. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely all day long.
Yep. Just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you very much for that. There's, I have a lot of them. There's a lot of them. Maybe we'll trot out some more over these coming months and stuff. And yeah, let's see.
We all hear about why Roth left the band and each side of the stories and all. But your latest interview up on your YouTube page, Eddie goes right into Dave, and he's doing this and that, and he don't mind talking about it. It's interesting as hell.
It is. I listened to it last night, and if even people in the chat are even out there watching, check out.
Oh yeah, God, go listen to this, man. It makes your jaw drop.
I mean,
if you're not subscribed,
honestly, that's so nice. Honestly, I don't know what's on there. My YouTube guy, Paul, who's unbelievable. I mean, he's like you guys. I don't know. He really digs what I do, and it's just, let's do a YouTube thing anyway. He's like the YouTube version of you guys. So he says, hey man, we got to do a Van Halen thing. So find one. So honestly, I had a lot of them, and I try to match them up. I had the stuff labeled, and then I have the story written, so I know that if I did an interview in '86, well, it was probably that one for guitar, blah, blah, blah. I thought that would be a cool one, but I don't know what was on there. I made the copy, sent him a WAV file, so that's interesting. That stuff is on there. I'll tell you one little insight. Maybe you all know this already. Ed had a big dislike for Dave, and so did Al from day one. I mean, we kind of know all about that, but I mean, it was never like this close thing. Anyway, story for another day.
Anybody got anything else here, guys?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry, I've got one last comment. If you guys would shut the fuck up for 3 seconds, let somebody talk. God.
Yeah, I want to apologize to
Chad.
Steve right away. It's
Yeah.
I apologize.
I gotta tell
I'm really
you,
talkative,
I don't really get the chance to talk about this stuff to a lot of people. I mean, my buddies I talk to, but my brother doesn't want to hear it because he was there, he's heard it, and it's like, I don't know, you tell some people and they don't quite get the connection. I'll say, well, yeah, I've been interviewing guys for 48 years, and they'll go, well, I ran into Neil Schoen at the shoe store. And I mean, it's like, anyway, so if you get me going on something.
There might be a platform for that, Steve. I think there's YouTube show. Maybe someone will have you on the show and you can tell some stories. That'd be kind of neat.
You think? Good, man.
Sorry.
So Blackjack Guitar Nut had said, Steve, that material is priceless. I'm sure you'll be contacted from the family. Oh, it just got highlighted.
Yeah.
Did somebody do that?
It's magic.
That is all fruitcake.
Could this be magic?
I don't think they'd reach out to me if I had the key to the kingdom. I think Ed said that Al fucking hates me. I'm sure that Janie, who I've never met, has just heard stories from Dave and from Al and Ed. You know, Wolfie, I don't know. I mean, I would love it if they would call. I would make every fucking thing I have ever done available to them. I have Ed would call and we talk for like 3 minutes, and Ed would say stuff on these phone conversations. They weren't even interviews, and I don't even know how I had them recorded because I never knew he was going to call. Maybe I always had my cassette player hooked up in case Ed called, and I would plug in and surreptitiously I'd record them. Hey, you're not supposed to do that. Fuck it, I did it and I have them. But
I
there's
am
some stuff
never
on these
recalling
tapes
you.
that are like, yeah, exactly. But anyway, I would love to be involved in that, but I don't think that would ever happen. You know, I'd give them everything I have.
You never
All
know.
these interviews I have with all the people they've played with and his buddies and promoters. I mean, some of these guys may have passed away by now. I don't know. Anyway, Van Halen family, if you're watching, give me a shout and I'll give you everything I have.
That was my thought, Steve. Maybe they'll see this, and my thought from Wolfgang's perspective is if it was my father and someone had information about my father that he had passed away and had known him as well as, I mean, the conversations when you and Ed are talking are like two buddies just shooting the bull. Like that is the fly on the wall thing that blows my mind. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, hi, Mr. Van Halen, like you're calling someone you don't know. It's like, Steve, let me show you this new riff. Like I'd call my buddy today and say, let me show you this cool riff. Like that's the cool part. So I'm hoping if they see this, if you know, from his perspective, and obviously I'm not, if I'm Wolfgang Van Halen, I go, I don't know what happened, and if there's arguments between these people, but my dad obviously cared about this guy. He spent this much time interacting with him. I want to know what that was about, and I would personally reach out, and I'm hoping selfishly, but also for you, for Wolf, for all of us, that happens. You know.
Yep.
I hope so, Tom.
Me
That
too.
would be,
Hmm.
I mean, that would be such a perfect kind of a symmetry and you know what I mean? That would be.
It would be kismet, you know, it would.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Steve,
Exactly.
I really
Synchronicity.
enjoyed hearing the story you told not long ago about how Ed had called you. You were staying in the same hotel and he called you in the middle of the night to hang out.
Yeah.
And you went upstairs, and when you left, there was a young kid crouched down listening underneath the door.
I think that was Tom now that I think about it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tony.
It might have been
Yeah,
me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and in fact, that was that's the interview, the new interview you hear. That's when I went to see them in. It says it on the interview. I forget where they were playing, but that's the night after they played. Yeah, the phone rings and yeah, come on up, and then I walk outside. And there's a kid on the floor, you know, listening underneath the door, you know. And I was such an asshole. You know, I told him, I said, hey, man, you should leave. I've never done that. But like I said before, it's like I wanted Ed all to myself that night, you know, and, my insecurity again, you know. So, but yeah, that was great. God, I wish I had my cassette player going when Ed was up there because he had his guitar again and he was playing stuff and he was working on this one riff. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just something he had made up or if it was a song. I can't remember. But I watched him, I swear to you, I watched him for 2 hours play this riff over and over and over. And he'd play it, you know, and, you know, refine it down, you know. I mean,
Let me ask you this, Steve. Did he have his red, white, and black guitar in his hotel rooms? I know he had one on him all the time. Is that the guitar he practiced on in hotel rooms or what?
He had a guitar, red, white, and black and blue, pink guitar in his room. I don't know if it's the same one he had just played live. Probably very doubtful. I mean, that's probably got packed and it's on the way to the next show. But yeah, he always had a guitar in his. Well, I'm guessing he always had a guitar in his hotel room. I mean, they used to have, you know, practice rooms on the road that were like, you know, I mean, they'd have like, you know, these big anvil cases that would open up, you know, and I mean, it was like Ed's, you know, rig in miniature. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
amazing.
I saw a Lexicon PTM 70 today. I almost bought it. It was a really good deal. Sam Ash in New Jersey, but they didn't quite want to come down to the price I wanted. And, you know, they made enough of those PCM 70s that I'll wait around till I can find a smoking deal on one. But
Yeah.
I have the Roland SDE delays. I have those in my rack.
That stuff that Ed used.
Yeah.
All the time.
You know, and I don't use it that much, but it's just so it's sentimental to me just to see the 80s colored knobs, and it's just, you know, it's cool stuff. And there is something about that 80s rack gear, something about the fidelity of it that the pedal versions can't match. You know, because I have the pedal version that tries to use the SDE algorithm, and it's not the same as the full size unit. It's just not. You know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Guys and girls, we are going to call it a day. I appreciate all of you being here today, sharing your stories and your memory to our hero. Yeah, it's been a wild week, very sad week, but yeah, I appreciate all of you guys and everybody in the chat and watching. Thank you so much for hanging out here. I do hope you all come back
Sandra,
next
you almost
week.
kill me with that. We got to do the like Mickey Van Halen one. Forget it.
What are we making here? Is this something sexual or something?
You're trying to make a heart, Steve. It's supposed to be a heart.
Yeah, I can tell you what it looks like.
Yeah,
right.
If memory serves me well,
I'm not doing that anymore.
That might be a different show.
Thank
I
you.
also wanted to say in closing, I did want to say in closing, again, thank you to Tony and Sandra. I love
Thank
this.
You, Steve.
It gets my place of honor.
Nice.
My guitar picks.
Nice.
Oh, and now you can see my pajamas. You weren't supposed to see those. Sandra, thank you for your beautiful rendition of what I wrote. That was really nice. That was really beautiful. And Tom, those very sweet words you said about my stories, that meant a lot. Brendan, thank you, man, for being here, for caring enough. And everybody out there, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody, thank you. Look, I got a gift in the mail too this week. I almost forgot. Steve, let me show you this.
Oh shit.
No liquor in it though, but check this out.
No, I would have got arrested.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice. Very cool.
They wouldn't let me send alcohol.
Did you drink it all, Tony?
There was no Jack Daniels in it.
Yeah, I'm sure there wasn't, Tony.
It had to be
no, there wasn't.
It had to be empty before it shipped. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Tony had him with Jack Daniels baits, and he was going, you know, like Mikey.
Yep. Go Mikey. Yep. All right, guys. We will see you guys next week. Hang out a moment if you want. Everybody, we appreciate you being here. This is our tribute to Eddie Van Halen. Rest in peace, our hero. Have a great week. We love you.